Welcome, weary writers. Welcome, exhausted creators. Let me guess, you're tired of the endless, agonizing struggle of drafting, right? You're completely exhausted by the fiery, messy crucible of creation. Well, step right into the shadows. Today we are framing our explainer as a sort of dark masterclass, a cautionary tale for anyone engaged in the grueling act of creation. We're diving into a fascinating philosophical text about the absolute risks of a static existence. This existence is personified by a figure known as the ghastly ghoul of Revelation, who offers a permanent cure for your creative agony. You only have to give up one tiny little thing, your soul, which, let's be honest, you were probably ready to trade for a finished first draft anyway. Okay, let's dive into this. Here is our slightly sinister syllabus for this masterclass in clinical detachment. We'll start with a welcome to the void, move on to defining the Thanatos drive, and then examine the architecture of frozen logic. After that, we'll explore being trapped in gilded cages, pit the specter against the ghoul, and finally, we'll face the writer's final choice. So, starting off with part 1, welcome to the void, or as our source text evocatively calls it, the city of mirrors and the mud. This is where the messy, painful spirit of becoming can finally just rest. The text describes the ghastly ghoul of Revelation as a ghostly, static monument to the void. Now, if I'm playing the role of the ghoul for you today, you need to understand that I am not here to help you brainstorm. I'm definitely not here to help you push through writer's block with fiery, untamed passion. No, I operate from a crimson void. I'm offering you a state of clinical detachment, a permanent, unchanging state that is totally free from the relentless logic of the crucible. It actually sounds almost peaceful, doesn't it? A perfect monument of pure stillness. But to achieve this hollow perfection, there's a bit of a catch. Central to the ghoul's guidance are his sovereign laws. The text brilliantly describes these as contracts written in disappearing ink. And what exactly is the primary clause of this phantom contract? It is the absolute erasure of the self. To finally end your struggle, you have to completely surrender your individual identity. You're basically trading your messy, evolving, vibrant existence for a highly structured but entirely non-existent self. That brings us to section 2, defining the Thanatos drive, subtitled The End of All Becoming. What is truly fascinating about this concept is how it reveals the deep underlying psychological mechanics of why we actually want to give up on a difficult project. The ghoul operates through what psychology and philosophy call the Thanatos drive. It's defined here as a relentless pull toward the end of all becoming. Simply put, it is the deep, dark desire for the cessation of struggle. It's literally that little voice whispering in your ear at 2 a.m. Just stop trying to make it perfect, just freeze it, give up the fire of imagination. It seduces the creator into trading the vibrant, painful process of growth for a lifeless, frozen non-existence. In this deceptive guide, he doesn't build on fresh ideas. His entire foundation is built on the dust of the old world and the twisted, tangled roots of historical shadows. But perhaps most chillingly, he uses the silence of the past to mask his true intentions. By wrapping his static void in total silence, he makes sure that any perceived progress you think you're making is actually just a regression, a very quiet return to absolute emptiness. Moving right along to Section 3, Architecture of Frozen Logic, featuring the incredibly evocative concept of Apollonian gaskets. This is where we look at the structural traps that writers constantly fall into. The architecture of the ghoul's void is defined by these Apollonian gaskets. Think of them as intricate structures of rigid, frozen logic, specifically designed to bind your fluid spirit. Picture a writer who becomes so totally obsessed with their world building, their perfectly symmetrical plotting, and their rigidly detailed outlines that the actual life and soul of the story are just suffocated. The heavy weight of structure, instead of supporting the narrative, becomes a massive anchor that literally petrifies the creative soul in place. This creates a beautiful, highly symmetrical order that is utterly, bone-chillingly cold. So, the crucial takeaway here is this. The psyche is successfully suppressed into a state of total, static stagnation. And the real tragedy? The writer frequently mistakes this complete lack of internal conflict for true perfection. They look at their rigid outline and think, wow, it's flawless, completely blind to the fact that they are locked in a frozen order where absolutely nothing breathes or lives. But how exactly does a creator stay so blind to this? Well, that leads us to part 4, Trapped in Gilded Cages and the Illusion of Movement. Let's look at how the mind is tricked into staying in this stagnant architecture. To further ensnare the soul, the ghoul projects what the text calls flickering masks of evolution. It is entirely a mirage of movement. You feel like you're progressing, but in reality, you're being pulled backward toward gilded cages. You are led straight to the mirrors of the hollow souls. This is a highly dangerous middle ground that offers all the comfort of structure while secretly extinguishing your transformative fire. You think you are climbing forward, but actually you are entering a descent into the great evening. Look at the intense psychological impact this has on the traveler. There is a massive, gaping chasm between illusion and reality. The illusion is that you are staring into the reflections of a perfected universe, finally achieving the peace of the stars. But the reality? Terminal decay. You are quite literally rotting in a tomb of one's own making. You've consciously chosen the absolute comfort of the cage over the wild, unpredictable pain of the creative wilderness. Let's shift gears to Section 5 and see how this all builds to a showdown, the specter against the ghoul, or in other words, the crucible versus the void. This matchup brilliantly illustrates the entire philosophical conflict at the heart of our explainer. In one corner, we have the true red specter, the genuine, untamed creative spirit. Its domain is the fiery crucible. Its energy is the literal fire of imagination. Its goal is to build a life-affirming mythos. It takes the heavy lead of history and melts it down to forge something entirely new. In the opposite corner, the ghastly ghoul. Its domain is the static crimson void. Its energy is that Thanos drive we talked about. Its goal is structured non-existence. And instead of melting that heavy lead, it uses it as a cold anchor to freeze the soul permanently in place. It is the ultimate existential battle for a creator's soul. And that brings us to our final lesson, Section 6, the writer's final choice and the silence of the cage. This is where our dark masterclass reaches its chilling conclusion, addressing the frankly horrific fate of the complacent artist. Ultimately, the ghastly ghoul delivers a soul to a truly pathetic end state. The text ruthlessly calls this becoming a pious cow of contentment within a tomb of one's own making. Just think about that phrase for a second. Sure, you are content, but you are completely domesticated, totally trapped, and intellectually dead. The seeker no longer struggles simply because the seeker no longer truly exists as an individual self. By trading the messy, fiery, chaotic spirit of becoming for the safe, predictable silence of the cage, the writer experiences the ultimate death of the creative soul. In this way, the ghoul fulfills the Thanatos drive absolutely perfectly. And then you realize the terrifying truth of it all. Hollow perfection is completely, 100% indistinguishable from the void itself. The true creator has to keep forging new mythos at the crucible, no matter how much the fire burns. So, as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you staring directly into the abyss of your own creative process with one final provocative question. When the work gets impossibly hard, and it will you bravely embrace the fiery crucible of creation, or will you give up and sign the disappearing contract of the void? The choice and the ultimate survival of your creative soul is entirely up to you.